like to welcome everybody here today to the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners, April 17th, 2018. Let's rise and say pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda review. Does anybody have anything they'd like to change or add?
Mr. Chair, we have one addition to the agenda today. Commissioner Purvis has been selected to participate in the Huntley to Wilmar Transmission Line Advisory Task Force, and so we'd like to get approval to appoint him to that committee.
And where would you like to put that?
We can do it under Administrative Services.
Okay.
Move to approve with the addition.
Second.
Anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And we start right off inviting George Leary and his crew up here for planning and zoning. Garrett and Aaron.
Morning, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, man. You
Morning.
too, George.
So, we've got, if this is working now. Yeah, there we go. Go ahead, start with PC 09118.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PC 09-18 is a request from James Will for review and approval of a conditional use permit to expand an existing total confinement swine finishing operation. The existing site has 2 total confinement finishing barns capable of housing 3,000 finishing pigs. The expansion will include the construction of 1 additional total confinement finishing barn capable of housing 2,000 finishing pigs. The property is zoned agricultural and is located in the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 31, Meadow Township. Mr. Alving presented the staff report. The applicant was present and made no further comment. There was no public comment. The chair of the Planning Commission commented that the staff had done an excellent job of preparing the report and mentioned that he had no issues with the report. There were no comments or questions from the members of the Planning Commission. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward to the County Board a recommendation of approval based on the findings prepared by staff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board action is a resolution.
Okay. So we should open this up for a public hearing. Hear from the public. Anybody that would like to speak. So this portion of our meeting, when you come, if you'd like to say something, come to the microphone and just introduce yourself and where you live. And this is with regard to the expansion of an existing confinement swine operation. And it's PC, what is it here? If I can find it at the top, PC 9-18. Is there anybody here that would like to come forward and say a few words? Would anybody like to come forward and say anything, ask any questions or comments? And it doesn't look like there's anybody here, so we'll bring it back to the board then for board action. What are your wishes?
I would move approval, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion for approval and a second regarding the expansion request. Is there any discussion or any questions of staff?
Nope, I don't have any at this time.
No. I just remember George saying that we'll probably have a few more of these because changing the hog business.
Yep.
With
Yeah.
farrowing and then less farrowing or consolidated and farrowing and then more
Yeah.
finishing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So.
And you're at the planning and zoning with this one then too?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
I know we don't go to them, so we don't hear all the details. You hear pretty much a lot of the details. But
Yeah, they go through the whole report at this. Yeah, the whole report's much longer than what we see here.
Yeah.
So.
No, I know. Well, good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And then our next one here, PC 9 dash, what is it here if I can find it? Is it on the solar report?
Mr. Chair, it's
10-8.
10-18.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. PC 10-18 is a request from Innovative Power Systems for review and approval of a conditional use permit to operate a large solar energy system. The proposed project will span approximately 3 acres and will have a power capacity of up to 240 kilovolts, which by Blue Earth County standards classifies it as a large energy system. The property is zoned agricultural, and the proposed project will be located in part of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 32 Luray Township. Mr. Stubbs presented the staff report. The applicants were represented by Mr. Evan Carlson, who works with Innovative Power Systems. Mr. Carlson mentioned the proposal is a small project that will have a pollinator seed mix underneath the panels. He added that Innovative Power Systems is a Minnesota company that has been operating since 1991 and that the client is likely to be the long-term owner of the project. There was no public comment. The chair of the Planning Commission commented that staff had done a good job of presenting the details and added there are some similar proposals in the area. He also asked Planning and Zoning staff if there is a time when the panels may be situated that will create glare to anyone in the area. Mr. Stubbs responded by saying that the question had come up before in other projects. He added that even though a glare study was not requested with this project, it was determined in other similar projects that panels are coated in a way that does not generate enough glare to be a hazard. Mr. Carlson added that these panels are constructed in the same way. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward to the County Board a recommendation of approval based on the findings prepared by staff, and the board action is a resolution.
Okay, so again, we'll open this up for public hearing. If there's somebody here that would like to come up and speak to this request for a conditional use permit to operate. Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, hi, I'm Evan Carlson. I'm the applicant with IPS, and this is just like the other ones you've seen, except it's smaller. Still a community solar garden, still pollinator friendly. A lot of the same parameters apply, so if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to get up and say a few words about this proposal? PC 10-18. Anybody else who'd like to get up and make a few comments or any questions from the audience? Well, we'll close the public hearing portion then and bring it back to the board for board action. And what would you like to do?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion for approval and a second. Is there any discussion or any questions? I've got a couple questions. When you say it's like a lot of the other ones you've got in the area, so in order to grow pollinators and things underneath, these are the ones on posts that are...
Yes.
How tall are they?
About 3 feet off the ground and about 10 feet at the tallest.
Okay.
So it's the same racking system, it's the same type of equipment. We had to reduce the size due to the electrical infrastructure.
Yeah.
But other than that, you know, there's a state statute that says what a pollinator-friendly mix is, and equipment's all the same, fence around it just the same, similar financial structure with subscribers.
Okay. And then some solar units we've got in the region are fixed, and others are rotating. They move. They have an ability to articulate. I know that there's pluses and minuses for the both of them. So
yes.
Which one is this?
These will be fixed.
They're fixed.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of times that's because of our weather, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a more conservative bet. It's a long-term project. It needs to work well for a long period of time. We're talking 25 years, so we've decided to go with a more conservative structure.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Carlson. Anybody else have a question?
What kind of land did you take out of production? Or was it production land, or was it swamp land, or what kind of land was it?
It was not swamp. We have to avoid wetlands. It was that land. I believe they were farming it, yes.
They're cropping it.
Yeah.
Do you know what the, I don't know, maybe Bob's one to answer this, what kind of a tax base goes back to the county from something like this?
Yeah, it depends on the county. As I understand it, the taxes are product of the valuation of the property and the use of the property. The valuation is unlikely to change, but the use sometimes does change. Some counties look at the primary use of the property. They might say, well, primarily it's still agriculture. Others might say, with regard to that acreage, they'll change the use. totally depends on how you guys do it here.
I'm always supportive of solar, wind, anything that, so we don't have to use our core fuels. But you know, I'm also concerned that if we take away from usable farm property, is what's happening there, how much the county's getting back, and so thank you.
Anybody else? No. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you.
Carlson. So, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We've got PC 11-18. Go ahead,
Thank you,
George.
Mr. Chairman. PC 11-18 is a request from Carl Nelson for review and approval of a conditional use permit to operate a marine engine repair business as a level 2 home occupation. The property is zoned agricultural and is located in part of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 33, Lyra Township. Mrs. Sando presented the staff report. The applicant was present and made no further comment. There was no public comment. The chair of the Planning Commission commented the staff had done a good job of presenting the details. He also asked if there were any boats or vehicles outside the storage structures, referring to similar facilities within the county which had started with good intention but have ended up as junkyards. Mr. Stubbs responded to the question by stating that staff had visited the property and there was enough space within the two structures for the storage of boats and engines. Mr. Stubbs added that no one would see the operation on the property while driving past it. Following the discussion, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward to the County Board a recommendation of approval based on the findings prepared by staff, and the board action is a resolution.
All right, so we'll open this up again then for public feedback or any inquiries. Right now we'll open this up for the public out here to ask any questions or come to the microphone and make any comments. Please state your name and where you live regarding this request for a conditional use permit to operate a marine engine repair business.
Good morning, Carl Nelson.
Welcome.
I
Morning.
wanted to just chat a little bit about this proposed business. If you have any questions at this point, I'd be happy to address them.
Do you have any neighbors living real close to you?
I do. Yeah, the Cavens live not far from us. I've spoken with them about noise aspects and no issues that way. So.
Okay.
Mhm.
Anybody else have a question?
Nope, I don't have any questions at this time.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah, thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Anybody else like to come forward, share any concerns or ask any more questions about this proposal for conditional use permit to operate a marine engine repair business in rural Blue Earth County? PC 11-18. Anybody would like to come forward? PC 11-18, any comments regarding this proposal? And we'll close the public hearing then. There's nobody here I can see. And bring it back to the board for board action.
Move to approve.
Yeah, we had stereo there.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
I'll second it then.
Okay. So we've got a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion or any comments about this?
Well, good luck to you.
Yeah, good luck. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks to all three of you for coming today. Full force.
Thank you, guys.
Our next item for business on our agenda is the Watonwan Watershed Agreement, and we have Mr. Scott Fickner here from our Environmental Services. He's our director.
Morning,
I know-
Scott.
Good morning.
Morning,
I know
Scott.
Julie's at some training today, so
Right.
she could come.
I'll try to fill in.
Yeah, try.
Yeah. I'll do my best.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
This is regarding the Watonwan Watershed Memorandum of an Agreement. Minnesota statutes contain a statewide goal to transition from county water plans to the comprehensive watershed planning management plans by the year 2025. Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources, or Bowser, is the state agency responsible for this transition. The purpose of the One Watershed, One Plan program is to align local water planning on major watershed boundaries with state strategies towards prioritization and measurable implementation. This is intended to increase collaboration and cooperation among political boundaries. The plan development, approval process, and committee structure are prescribed by Bowser specifically. Blue Earth County is fortunate to have an abundance of water resources. Because of this, the county will be asked to participate in at least 4 of these comprehensive watershed management planning projects within the next 7 years. The current water plan was approved by the county board last fall and will be replaced by these comprehensive watershed planning projects. Blue Earth County has been asked to join the Watonwan Comprehensive Watershed Planning Project. This includes counties and soil water conservation districts from 6 counties: Watonwan, Blue Earth, Brown, Cottonwood, Jackson, and Martin. Approximately 12% of Blue Earth County lies within the watershed that we're discussing. Blue Earth County has already been involved in the project. In March of 2017, the county board approved a resolution to supporting a grant application to develop the comprehensive water plan. Resolution anticipated entering into a memorandum of agreement between the counties and soil water conservation districts in the Watonwan River watershed to collaborate on this effort. The Board of Water and Soil Resources has awarded a grant of $247,000 for this planning project. The Bowser requires the formal agreement among participating counties in the plan. They've developed a template memorandum of understanding for participants to sign to demonstrate the commitment to the watershed planning project. And this memorandum of agreement has been presented in your packet, and it's put out for your consideration. It's been signed by all the other members of the group. The purpose of the MOA will remain in effect, or the proposed MOA will remain in effect until adoption of the water plan by all parties, unless it's canceled according to the provisions of the agreement or terminated by law. Members can withdraw from the agreement at any time with a resolution from their board and a 30-day notice to the policy committee. One of the main components of the agreement is establishing committees to work on the watershed plan. Bowser requires a 3-committee structure: a policy committee, an advisory committee, and a steering committee. Policy committee will consist of 1 county commissioner and 1 soil water conservation district supervisor from each of the member counties. The purpose of the policy committee is to adopt the bylaws and elect officers, appoint or approve advisory committee members, review recommendations of the advisory committee, make final decisions about the content of the plan and its submittal, approve expenditures of the funds allocated for the plan development, and represent their respective local governments in the development of the plan. During the 2-year period, the planning period, the policy committee will meet monthly or bi-monthly, depending upon the amount of business to be conducted. Each county and soil water conservation district must appoint 1 representative and 1 alternate to the policy committee. The advisory committee is to provide technical support and make recommendations on the plan contents and implementation to the policy committee. Examples of advisory committee members could include representatives from Drainage Authority, county highways, planning and zoning, federal agencies, city or township officials, environmental groups, sports organizations, farm organizations, and other interested or technical people. The advisory committee will meet monthly or as needed. The steering committee members include the county water planning staff and SWCD staff and the Bowser project manager. The purpose of the steering committee is to provide logistical and process decision-making in the plan development process, and to work with the project consultant formulating the recommendations for consideration by the advisory committee. steering committee members will also serve on the advisory committee. There's no grant match requirements for the planning grant. Watonwan County and Cottonwood County SWCD will administer the grant. They will receive a stipend of up to $15,090 of the grant funds for the grant administration. Watonwan County will be responsible for signing contracts and making payments for the grant authorized by the policy committee. The majority of the funds, $190,000, will be used for a consultant to provide services directly related to the plan development, including working with the policy committee and advisory committees to develop the plan and to conduct the public hearings that are necessary. The process for approving and adopting the watershed plan is very similar to the county water management plan review and approval process that the county has just gone through for our plan. The Watonwan plan will replace the Blue Earth County water management plan for the portion of the county that lies within the watershed that we're talking about. And in summary, the Environmental Services Department recommends the county board approve the memorandum of agreement to join the Watonwan Watershed Planning Project contained in your packet, and appoint a representative and an alternate to serve on the policy committee. Thank you.
A little bit of a mouthful there? Or?
Yeah.
Second.
So you're saying we'd like to move this memorandum. Anybody have any discussion or any comments?
I've been to one of the meeting over in St. James. It looks like a good project. Julie's been involved from the beginning, so I certainly think it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
It comes up in our Gaburba, the basin, and it's a joint endeavor. So.
Yeah.
I would agree with those comments. I've heard a lot about it at AMC. I'm not in any committees, but
Yeah.
AMC has been talking about a lot, so looks like a good program.
Anything, Vance?
Hopefully it's more than talk and it's action. Well, I mean, it's been the problem.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Water planning, so hopefully this, and it's, this is the effort to get it to the local area where it's involved and not.
Right. Would you like to repeat all that?
No, thank you.
Well, yeah, it's in our packet. No.
It does require, Mr. Chair, we'll have a commissioner and staff. I don't know if that's Julie then, but.
We would recommend Julie be the staff on that,
Yeah.
on the advisory committee and the steering committee.
Yes. And then I've just got something to say about it too. I got a chance to talk with Julie a little bit yesterday, which I appreciated too,
Right.
because I had some questions. And I served for quite a while on the Minnesota River Board, and then before on the Gaburba, which now Mark is on. And so it teaches you a lot about what's going on and what isn't going on sometimes.
Right.
Just to help clarify it, though, I think it's helpful for me just to say a few things. That I think the effort throughout the state is going to be looking more at watershed management versus county SWCDs, or just just going to be more of an approach that's scientifically looking at the entire watershed.
Correct.
And this particular watershed, the county that has the most, 99% or more, is in Watonwan County. Thus Watonwan watershed, river watershed. Very little in Cottonwood, a little bit in Blue Earth County, a little teeny bit in Brown, and Martin and Jackson, just slivers. And
right.
And but the good thing about it is that when I read through the agreement, is that it talks a lot about partnership, and when you've got $250,000 just to help with planning, it's good to have other eyeballs and people involved. And so I hope something really good comes out of this for that.
Yeah, this is a very positive program, and it's our smallest watershed and our first one to become involved with. This will kind of break the ice for some of the bigger watersheds as we move forward on those.
Yes, and this one drains right into the Blue Earth River, which comes right to our county. So all of this water from that watershed comes right to Blue Earth County and to Mankato.
Yeah.
So it impacts everybody
Right.
in this region very directly. Okay, anybody else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
I would like to remind the board that you need to appoint a representative and an alternate also.
Yeah, we can do that, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay.
When do you want to do that, Chair?
We could talk about it, you know, after the...
We could bring a recommendation to the next meeting
Yeah.
or whatever.
Sure. Okay, so now we've got bid awards. We have Ryan Tilges, our county engineer, Public Works Director. Thank you. Come on up.
Ryan?
How are we today?
Good, good.
Good. Thank you for a few minutes on the agenda today. We've got a couple of projects for consideration. The first one is consideration of our two-month overlay. Two-month overlay contract. There's a copy of the bid abstract. There were two bidders on the contract. The engineer's estimate was $2.06 million. The apparent low bidder is Central Specialties Incorporated. 7% under the engineer's estimate for $1.9 million. And then the second bidder was Southern Minnesota Construction, 2.9% under the engineer's estimate at just a hair under $2 million. So with that being said, Central Specialties does have the work on our County Road 109 project. Given where the geographic locale is of these overlays, it's certainly within where they'll have their portable plant set up, so I would recommend that we award to Central Specialties.
Okay, let me get this. There we go, I've got it now.
Full approval.
Second.
A motion for approval and a second. Anybody have any questions or any comments? Sounds good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
And the second bid abstract that I'm handing out now is for Pleasant Township bridge replacement number 07508. This is a township bridge about 2 miles north of the corporation of Willow Creek on Township Road 91. The project is funded with town bridge funds for the replacement of the structure, as well as a portion of the approach grading and engineering costs. These projects are administered by the county, paid for by the town bridge fund, and maximum amount of pocket cost typically to the township at $20,000. So we do have a cooperative agreement in place with the township for the replacement of the structure. We'd like to get this one under construction this year. The engineer's estimate was $525,000. The low bidder was Icon Constructors at $460,000, so 12.3% under our engineer's estimate. We had a total of 4 bids, ranging from $460,000 all the way up to $620,000. So we were right in the middle of the spectrum, right where we want to be with our estimates. Icon is working. It just started yesterday, actually, on the County State Highway 52 bridge. So they're working in the county, and I would recommend award to them.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second on this bridge. Are there any questions or comments? I have a question.
Yes.
Which river is it over?
It is
You know?
over the Willow Creek, I believe.
Is it
Yeah.
really? Willow
I believe
Creek?
so.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a tough question, depending on
Well,
where
I
it's
haven't
at.
been out
There's
there.
a
I
lot
haven't been
of-
out there on that creek, so I
There's
didn't
a
know.
lot of water passing through our county to keep all straight. Yes,
No,
I believe
I
that
know.
one's Willow Creek.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Sometimes you gotta play stump the engineer instead of just the administrator.
Never happens. All right, thank you for your time, guys.
Thanks a
you,
lot.
Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan, for coming. Okay, let's see. We got Drainage Inspector's Report. Come on up, Ryan.
Morning, Ryan.
Good morning.
Morning, Ryan.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
We just have the one repair report this morning. It's on County Ditch 86, which is in Decorey and Buford Townships. We're doing some alternative side intakes, so that's what the ASI abbreviation stands for. This is part of a clean water grant that we got from Bowser back in 2016. They already gave us the funds, so this is part of our matching, is what we're doing. So and we have to have it done by this year, so.
You do?
Yeah. so
That's good. So these are those intakes, there's 9 alternative side intakes, it says there.
Yeah, and they're not all the same. Some of them are, rock intakes. They're all different structures, so. But it's all based around that clean water grant that we received, so.
Okay.
I'll move approval.
Got a motion for approval and a second. And any more discussion or questions?
Wow, got off easy.
Yeah, you gotta really, I better ask you something. No,
Yeah.
well, some of these intakes are a little different than what they used to use years and years ago, isn't it?
Correct.
They've got some rock around them and things
Yep,
like that.
Yep, we're putting different tops on them and different restrictors so the water doesn't flow as quickly
Quite as
out.
fast, yeah.
Yep, we're trying to get the sediment to drop out of suspension before it enters the stream, so.
Yeah, even every little bit helps, and
Yep.
actually the farmers don't want to lose their soil either, so it's actually.
No,
it's
no, we
actually,
don't. No, we don't, so.
So it's an important thing.
Right, we're doing our part, so.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, take care.
Thanks, Ryan.
Next item of business on our agenda then is Human Services, and we've got our Human Services Director, Mr. Phil Clausen, here today.
Hello, everybody.
Morning. Welcome.
Hey, Phil.
You're all by yourself.
Yeah,
All
how
alone.
about that, huh? Nobody wants to hang out with me. That's how it goes.
Oh, I don't think that's true.
Don't
You?
take it personally.
Okay, I'll try not to.
Even if they mean it.
That's right, yeah, just ignore it. All right. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, thank you for hearing my items today. I have a few action items to do as the first part of my report. The first 3 under supportive housing I'll take together just because they do waterfall one to the next. This first one is a contract with the Department of Human Services to appoint Blue Earth County's fiscal agent for the Southern Regional Project to end long-term homelessness. And this grant or fiscal agent responsibility covers a 20-county area. Those counties are listed in the paragraph. The purpose is to provide supportive services and to stabilize people who have experienced long-term homelessness. The amount of that overall grant for the 20-county region is $2.5 million, and it represents a $1 increase from the last funding cycle, so I thought that's kind of interesting. Yes. And the term is... yeah, and get it down to $1. That's interesting. The term is January 1st of 18 through December 31st of 2019 on that contract. And then the next contract, all with the same monies passing through, is us as fiscal agent engaging Hearth Connections as the administrator and manager of that grant for the supportive services, and that includes 3 teams that they will help to administrate, and they also then contract back with us, which is the final step, as one of those vendors. So when we talk about our team of staff, it's one of those 3. So we're in kind of this dual role of being fiscal agent, contracting with Hearth, and then they contracting back with us as one of the direct care providers.
Okay.
And so that is the last, well, I guess I will say under that second item, there is that final paragraph that just goes into a little more detail that the case managers that do work with these people go beyond just stabilizing their housing. They also look at whatever the basic needs might be, including benefit assistance, so integrating with other kinds of social services, behavioral, mental health, medical care, education, employment, and crisis response, and also parenting support. So really they play that role of making sure that they navigate the system as far as other supports that can help their situation. The second contract, of course, would be the same amount of $2.5 million plus, and the term is also the same on that second contract. The third contract then is our Hearth Connections contract. So this is Hearth Connections contracting with us as a provider. Our team serves the 8 counties listed: Blue Earth, Brown, Faribault, Le Sueur, Martin, Nicollet, Sibley, and Watonwan. Those 8 counties are supplied with $434,500 annually. This is a 2.2% decrease. That's really just because there were some unused funds because we did overperform on our revenues a bit, and so they even out that scenario in terms of the money. The term of this contract is a one-year term, January 1st of 18 through December 31st of 18. There is a note on the bottom that contract negotiations between DHS, Hearth, and ourselves have really taken quite a while. We've had a hard time, in all candor, to float this boat. The margin's real tight, and it's hard to predict how things are going to go. And so it's been a lot of work year over year, and Bob and I talk annually about this particular area. Is the structure going to be able to be sustainable? It's a very important service. I'd never want to lose it, but does it fit in the nonprofit world? Should it have a different structure? Has all been tossed about for many years. So I just want to make the board aware of that. We have another year of stability here and a plan that we think will work. So those are the contracts. I do have a couple more action items under administration, the Human Services Fee Policy, and then also the per diem about the Human Services Advisory Committee. I'll take the fee policy first. There is a attachment in your packet that goes over the summary of the changes. I obviously can get more detail if anybody wants that, but I will just walk through this summary document quickly and see if the board's comfortable with some of these changes. In that document, it talks about really the first 2.5 items are all about language changes, and so there's certain terminology where we referred to client and now it's person or family. A lot of these things have just changed over time. And then under page 3, the 1B, it talks about language added that if we don't have the information we need, then we charge out the full fee. That doesn't mean the person will necessarily be charged the full fee, but it's a way to make sure that we get the information we need regarding insurance and all that. We just don't have that language right now. Page 4, under the outline, sliding fee waiver policy changed to sliding fee policy. There was some confusion just because we do have a fee waiver for unusual circumstances where we do review certain items, and those titles kind of walked over each other, so we just simplified it and saying this is our sliding fee policy. Those issues in 5B listed, 1, 2, and 3, spend downs, deductibles, out of network, those aren't allowed, so that's not really even a choice of ours. We just want to name out the ways that we cannot apply sliding fee to those particular items if people have those circumstances. Page 8, you'll see an increase in nursing services from $25 to $30. We look at what we're able to bill and usually start with that base and then go 3% over. We try to round out our numbers, which has really decreased our errors. We used to do it a straight 3% and there'd be pennies, and then we'd make more errors in how we did things. So this has cleaned that up. These breakouts where it says added psychotherapy add-on coding, this is that billing team that we established a few years ago, where the sophistication of how to bill now for medical services, our staff are really learning that, and it's a very complex piece of our business. What this really means is that, I'm going to use Dr. Farnsworth, if he sees someone, he has a medical piece of what he does that's billed under E&M coding, it's called. And then if he talks to that person and engages some therapeutic pieces about treatment planning and you better do this, don't do that, that's really therapy. And we can bill both of those. And so when we've done that, we've been able to maximize our revenues rather than just billing the medical appointment. And so there's a sophistication to some of this that we're learning as we go. And this Qualifax is our vendor who provides us our electronic record. So we really feel like we're up to speed. Sarah Emick is the one that really leads that for us as our supervisor, and Angie, of course, has a lot to do with that too, and came from a background where she did some of that kind of work. So
that's under the mental health.
It is, sure. So the doctor part, like when we get to a prescriber or a physician, those are actually medical charges that we can make, so they're in really that medical field. And then there's also a therapy component, and that's what they're called add-on codes. So it's just a terminology that we can bill for both pieces of what the session entails, and that's a way we can maximize our revenues, which has really been a boon for us. It's been a positive. The next page, summary, just page 10 and 11, daycare services. We said funding is available. We added that terminology because we have gone to a wait list, and it's just been on our volume and our resources, and so the needs, as I think you're all aware, for daycare have overmet our available services. And so we do have a waiting list. I think there's 50 to 60 people on the wait list right now. So, and then we changed some language, just that it used to say that people need to report within 10 days any changes, and some of that language has changed at the state level. And so when we have language that goes against what the state is, there's confusion. And so we are just rolling with the state changes and the language there.
So just based on what kind of services they're providing?
Right.
Which kind
Exactly.
of daycare center maybe?
Yep, exactly. And the language that the state provides to us. Childcare, the next item on page 14 on the summary is, this is a complex piece that I can't fully explain, but I will tell you how it nets out. There's a change in annual inspections that went from every other year to every year, and because of that there were charges that went to daycare providers. And you know this is a hot issue because there's a lot of complexity and regulation in daycare providers. And so what we wanted to do is come up with fees where they didn't end up having to pay more. And so what we're doing over time is moving from the background fee charge from $100 to $50, and then the annual inspection fee we moved to $100. They used to kind of have a double hit that they'd take when they started a daycare, and so we wanted it to be a wash, and in effect that's what we're proposing here. And then our language also changed to the annual inspection.
This is in-home daycare?
Right, so this is family daycare that we do, right, not corporate. Detox, this was another big change. The bottom line from a business perspective is that our proposal here is not going to change the budget. We did do some analysis. We had 2 fee schedules prior where there was more of a breakout for detox, so our hope was to charge people at different levels of income and hopefully maximize our revenues. What we're suggesting here is just to go to 1 fee schedule and not have that complexity. The net effect, the efficiency of that wasn't there. The cost effectiveness didn't show to be there, and so we did a scenario if we went to just our typical fee schedule and it netted out the same. So that's our proposal, is just to go to the 1 fee schedule. And then child support, changing language again from blood testing, because it used to be blood, to genetic testing. Now it's a swab in the mouth, so that's why we changed that. And then we have a catch-all statement in the end that we're following the guidelines provided to us by statutes as well. And so that's the overview. We've done this because, as you know, the fee policy is a pretty thick document. It would be hard to walk through that whole thing. So this is an attempt by staff and myself to try to give you a scenario of what's happening.
Appreciated.
You bet.
Yeah.
I'll do, Mr. Chair, one more action item and be done with my action items here, if that's all right with you. And that is Human Services Advisory Committee. This has been mentioned, I think, at last meeting that we were looking at a change, and the group has been talking about this over the last several meetings, restructuring the Human Services Advisory Committee. And what we have done in the past is 8 meetings a year, an hour each in duration. And what we're proposing is to go to the 4 meetings per year with 2-hour duration. We would focus 1 of those sessions on budget, 1 on public health, and 2 on the remaining social service programs, just as a way to better organize and focus our purpose. Some of this was generated by members. One member said she has children, and she said, I'd really like to stay with the meeting, but to get here during the summer, it's a difficult thing, and could we ever go to a 4-meeting schedule? And so that was one of the requests. The other thing that I became aware of is that special needs transportation is more limited in the summer months. It would be much harder to arrange, and so we have a number of members that do depend on that transportation. So both of those are some practical pieces that push some of this. And then the per diem suggestion is we're doubling the time, but we're suggesting going from $40 to $60 per session for the per diem. The net effect would net out that the overall charge per year would be somewhat reduced, and then obviously some reduction in mileage because people are only going to half the meetings. So those are the proposals and the action points I have for you today.
Well, thank you very much. Does the board have any questions or comments regarding all these issues that Phil has brought?
I don't have anything at this time.
I'll move I can move all the items at once.
Sounds like it. Sounds like it. We've got a motion from Mark and a second from Vance for moving forward.
A lot of work, a lot of stuff. Thanks for all this.
Thank you, Commissioner, appreciate that.
Anybody else? Just got a couple of questions too. So the one that stuck out to me that I didn't really understand was that child support portion where it says there is no longer a fee for non-public assistance child support applications. That means people who are just living in our community and they would like to have it collected.
Exactly
So
right.
there's no fee for applying for that.
Right. Amazing. Yeah, it's an interesting change
You have to do
too.
a lot of work to get that set up.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
kind of funny there's no fee.
Right. You know, the mission, and I was talking to Andrew Peach, who's our supervisor in charge of child support, and of course he has a perspective that's much more in the weeds about this, but I think there needs to be some better, and I know Commissioner, you've talked about this at times too, better kind of branding, messaging of what our mission is about. And really, I think part of the reason behind that is, you know, the kids to get the services and the resources they need is really the passion. And if you talk to our staff, that's what they care about. They get their mission. And so we don't want to create barriers. And for that population that isn't mandated to go through our service but can access this resource, we didn't want, I think the state, from a state perspective, didn't want to have that be a barrier. And so I think that's the logic behind it. It has happened at a level, it's not a Blue Earth County piece, but that's how it's working now in child support. So I think some of that messaging and communication would be helpful to the community so people understand why we do what we do.
Then the other question I had was about the supportive housing contracts and the grant dollars that we get to help support that. And I was just wondering, you know, what is there a portion of our levy, and Bob can help answer this maybe better than you feel, I don't know, but I know you oversee the budget probably for that. Wondering, you know, do we put, when let's just say the state says they're going to reduce it by 2%, you know, or let's just say we get one some year that's 5 or 10%, are there levy dollars already being shared with these grant dollars?
It's a great question. I may take first stab at it and see if Bob has something to add, because he certainly has been in this trench for many years as well. My response to that, what's difficult about, I guess, what we used to call agency funds, is anytime we have a regional project like this, it's really hard to come to you all and talk about Blue Earth County dollars supplanting any of our program costs. So this margin that's so tight, the problem with it is, even if it's 2%, to come to you and say, would you guys be willing to close our gap when it really serves 7 other counties? That's a difficulty. And so we kind of end up in a structural quandary about how to make that right. Whereas if you did do a governance where it was a nonprofit, all those participating counties could easily contribute. And that's what we've brought to our partners, is to say, I think we're all going to have to sweeten the pot, to your point. And that's one solution I've talked about going forward. We haven't done that because we wanted to kind of exist on what's provided and manage according to the resources and the grant. You know, it's a lot of money, but as you well know, Commissioner, it's a resource that doesn't even touch what we could do in our community. So there's great passion for this, but trying to live within your means is kind of the dance we do. So I don't know.
You know, maybe the only addition to that is this is not a mandated service. It is a grant-funded program that is optional for counties to participate in. And so, as Phil said, when it's a multi-county project, we've tried to live within the grant resources and the other federal and state dollars that might be available to us to support that, rather than using levy. But as a fiscal agent, we kind of take on some of those administrative costs that are behind the scenes. So in effect, we probably are contributing a little levy indirectly to a program like this.
Time-wise and things like that.
Right.
That's absolutely accurate, because I remember that we, I think we do take a bit of a hit of in-kind, absolutely, and we've even strategically decided that we'll do that to a point. But then you get to this threshold where it starts to create an inequity, and you have to be upfront with that, and certainly we would be upfront with you. But I think we're approaching that crossroad every year, it feels like we do, and say, how do we solve this? So that solution of asking participating counties to kind of ante up would be one of the first options.
I think, that should be on the table. I mean, I know you go to your MS
Maxis stuff,
Maxis stuff,
right,
and all the social work and human services that go on, and all those counties get together and talk about these things.
Right.
And I think that there's 8 other counties, that's 9 counties, correct?
So 7 others and
Oh,
8
7,
for
so
our
there's
group.
8,
Yep,
okay.
20 altogether, but our group is 8,
Is
including
8.
us, yeah.
And I think that because of the services that a lot of times falls on Blue Earth County, I can't imagine that those other counties wouldn't be willing, if we did too, threw a little money in the pot, figured out a way that was fair, a small levy amount, $1 a person
Right.
in their county, or $1, you know, something. I know that Region 9 Development Commission survives on about $2 a head in 9 counties, and it brings in, I don't quote me, but I'm thinking it's about $600,000.
Sure. Yep.
I mean,
It adds up.
$2.
Right.
Yeah, per taxpayer. And so, you know, it's on the property taxes. I know if you look at your property taxes as Region 9, but I mean, we here too have that authority as a board, and there's public health that goes on with this program, this Hearth Connections and Regional Housing Grant and the provider work that goes on. It's not just mental health, it's all kinds of issues, isn't it,
right.
Phil?
Yes, it
And
sure
so
is.
if you want to see more people with that are very poor and without housing in our communities, sitting around and doing things that maybe you don't think is cool, you know, that's what happens. I've read about communities who have decided to just kind of put the brakes on, but yet the homeless or the very poor still come to their community because it's a regional hub.
Yep.
And so you'll see more of those people out in public view and not getting maybe the services that they could have and the health care that they could have because of mental health issues and things like that. You know, you hear about this in other states, and you hear it too when you go to NACO, don't you, Vance? And I read articles on it, and it's like, whoa, it's like all of a sudden you're this hub that attracts people from these 7 counties.
Absolutely.
To our county.
Yes, I'm smiling
And
because
so-
our discussion items has a graphic that shows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and so I'm just trying, creates a visual, you know, for all of us as board members, because we really are accountable for what happens here, and if they need some funding to keep this thing going, we ought to have that on the back burner, I think, Bob, and all of us here keep that in mind, because you will see the effects if this program starts to suffer or needs more because we're getting more people in our community.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, it's pretty important for the crisis intervention and that sort of thing too.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Motion for a second, I think.
Yeah, we've got a motion in a second
Almost
here.
forgot,
Yeah, Mark, I think you made the motion, and was it Vance?
Yep.
Seconded it. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. A couple of informational discussion items, and I'll talk through our advisory committee minutes real quickly. The first graphic ties in directly with what Commissioner Campbell was talking about, and this is just our dashboard, kind of how we keep track of data for supportive housing. So this is a direct fit, kind of the analytics that go along with our discussion that we just had. You'll see most of these boxes are pretty self-explanatory. The first one, enrolled households, just breaks out the different types of family units that we serve, from singles all the way through full families that are experiencing some supportive housing needs. On the participant graphic, fairly even split out between adults in families, children in families, and single adults. This next graphic is the one that I was talking about, Commissioner Campbell's comments. Us acting as a hub, this is county of residence, so I think the other smaller counties around us do fully get what the Commissioner was talking about, that people import into our community because of resources. This is a very clear picture of that. And I think strategically, this isn't going to stop. I think we're gonna continue to grow in some very good ways, but then be stretched in some of the ways that I bring to you all, as far as how do we support some of the people in need that do come to our community and are part of our community. So you see just that split out that's pretty striking regarding county of residence versus county of financial responsibility, which would be a very different picture. And then exit reasons, the sample size certainly isn't very big here. These people stay on our caseloads for a long period of time, but the incarceration and the voluntary withdrawals are both the most represented, and those are areas we focus on quite a bit, is how do you come alongside people and really get to know them. and make sure that if they do move on, that they have what they need. And then obviously how it ties to some of our jail projects and how this population can be volatile. And as some of the commissioners' comments indicated to you, you can kind of pay me now or pay me later, and if we can get upstream with some of these people and try to help them, I think we're seeing results that are cost-effective results. And so that's really important as we go forward and as we act as a hub to our region. There's no doubt about that. The next graphic I'm not speaking to at all because it's just the raw data. If anybody wanted it, I put it in the packet. But it really populates the graphs on the last graphic, which is about child support. And you'll see these different areas that we measure in child support, so also talked about that today. Paternity establishment, that is trending up over time, and so that's one of our core missions, is to determine who are the biological parents and who have responsibility for these children that we serve. You see we're over the state average in that category. Order establishment, some of these statistics you'll see, I talked to Andrew this morning just to make sure I'm accurate in what I'm telling you. I think a lot of the downward trends are just sheerly about numbers. And some of what he's heard is that this is about ACA, and some of the technical problems we've had is we used to be flagged cases because people would come in for health care and there was this linkage to child support. And that system, as you all know, has broken down and people fell into a black hole and we haven't gained them back. And so that's one of the drivers. The other one that he said, and he goes, just tell the board it's my opinion, and I understand that we could do more analysis if you guys want that, but I believe the other big driver is just the economy. As the economy does do well, as unemployment goes down, that we see child support being a direct effect. And it's just what we were talking about, is that people no longer are forced to do their child support. It's up to them because they've gone to the non-assistance based care, and so they can do that privately, they can do that on their own. So we see a lot of people not hit our numbers, and some of that is driving these indicators that are trending down just because of sample size. Collections on current support, this is one of our key duties, that we collect and make sure we pursue those, and as well as arrears. You'll see that those two flip, that our collections on current support, we're behind the state average, so that's an area of growth for us. But collections on arrears, the dated fees that people owe, we outperform the state average. And so these are indicators that we measure all the time. I do have to say again, statistically, if you can think about it, that when we have less cases, it affects all these numbers. So it's a bit of a complex formula that drives up and down. It's not just staff performance, but it is the way that we look at our performance. There's no doubt about it. Cost effectiveness, it's a good number for us always, that we're in the $5 range and still are at $5 compared to the state average of $3.3 for every dollar invested. On the other hand, because of volume, you see that number start to track down because of just the sample size again. And the same with the open cases count. Is I think those drivers I talked about are the biggest factors. And then the final one about collections and dollars, you'll see that those are going down. Primarily, it would be our opinion because of volume has gone down. If I could, Mr. Chair, just quickly highlight a few things in the meeting minutes from Human Services Advisory. Mental Health Task Force talked about the South Central Crisis Center, and I won't go through all of that, but it's a nice little summary that Noel wrote up from that meeting. I would highlight the summary of unmet needs that came from our local advisory council to the board. Education, therapy services, additional crisis stabilization for both children and adults, rural transport, increased access to inpatient hospital level of mental health services, and specialization of mental health services are the ones that they really brought to the fore. And I know you all like to hear that from the community, saying here's people that have either received care, have family members that receive care, or just care enough to be on this advisory committee, and they're saying these are our top 6 that they would want to bring to your attention. Social Service Task Force, Bukata from Greater Mankato Diversity Council came and presented there, and I won't go through all that. I'm sure you guys are aware, but a very important partnership we have with Bukata and that council. And then Angie was at the meeting this last Thursday, and she talked about our budget, and you'll see a breakout there just keep this before the board at times to just see our revenue breakout versus expenses. These are things we tend to go through, like when we had Citizens Academy or County Ambassador Program, we tend to show people this kind of breakout of what we do, and so just wanted to highlight that to the board. There's a per capita ranking near the end of the page, and that's the one where the state rolls it all up, and so the #1 county has the lowest per capita spending in Minnesota, and we're at 20 out of 87, so we're on the more conservative end, which I like, because I think we have a lot of services. We're a hub, and we still are in that pretty fiscally conservative side of spending, so I feel good about that. Randy Blazing talked about attending the Men's Health Forum. He's always passionate about stuff like that, so it's really, really cool.
Very nice.
That's what I have for you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
I noticed that under that 6 things I identified of summary of unmet mental health needs identified by the Duluth County Local Advisory Council, and they had, educating students, families, therapy services, and then rural transportation is one of the things, that's needed, and we still, that's developing, we're trying to get that going and getting it developed. And
absolutely.
We're hopeful that, we get the other buses and get things moving a little bit more around here rurally for rural transit.
It always makes the list, doesn't it? It's a very important piece. If you can't get somewhere, things don't happen. Yeah, that's right.
And I know we don't make any decisions on this today, but I did write you a note about there might be a structural change, maybe just because the Human Services Advisory Board is a third of them are people who are consumers from our community, and a third are like staff and providers and other people, like the structure of it, And I noticed something in the Minnesota statutes. It said that now they want to have from what I can tell, one correctional person from our corrections advisory board. So you and Bob or whoever will be in discussions and decide how you want to address that.
Absolutely.
Add somebody. I guess they're doing more planning that way.
As long as it's not Josh, I'm good with that.
As long as it's not Josh, because he's not here, is he?
For the record.
Oh, there he is. Sorry, Josh.
For the record, you already got it on the record.
No, but I think it's good, and it actually fits with what we've been doing anyway in our county. When you think about it.
Crossover.
Crossover departmentally, working together, Yellow Line project. It makes sense, and I think it's going on all over, and so planning together for these public health issues and these social issues, we can't ignore it anymore. So. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Phil.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you very much. Should we take a short break?
Yeah, let's do that.
That'd be good.
Okay. Well, we're back from our break, and I'd like to go right into our administrative services. Bob, would you like to go ahead and take a lead on that?
Sure, Mr. Chair. The first item is the county board minutes for April 3rd.
I'd move the minutes.
Second.
Commissioner Strumberg moved the minutes, and Mr. People seconded the minutes. Any questions or corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Next up would be the bills for the 2 weeks listed there in your
I'll
packet.
move the bills.
Second.
We've got a motion for approval and a second for all the transactions there listed in our packets. Is there any questions or comments? I've got just a couple. Greater Mankato Family Services in the first week, payment to recipient for $10,000 even. Just curious.
That is an annual payment for family group decision-making activities in the Human Services Department. It's working with families involved in the child protection system.
So
it's a grant that actually comes to the region, and it's divided up, and so we're paying the Greater Minnesota Family Services to provide that service for the region.
They help put some planning together. Is that what they do? Or?
Right. They work with the families that are involved in child protection systems to come up with strategies in order to make sure that the kids are safe and cared for.
Okay. Thank you. This one might be similar, but it's Minnesota Valley Ed. I can't see. Educational District. It's a day treatment for $10,000 even again.
Right, that is a quarterly payment. The Minnesota Valley Education District operates a day treatment program for kids with mental health issues, and so we have a contract with them at that $10,000 a quarter.
Where's that located?
I'm not sure. Maybe St. Peter, but I'd have to check with Phil.
I mean, Mankato has got what they call futures here for kind of a day treatment. It used to be the
This is more of a therapeutic program.
Therapeutic.
Sure, with some schooling included.
Okay.
I know we've got a new center coming to Mankato too, day treatment kind of a thing. Downtown, that new building they're gonna build.
Oh, you mean by the library?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's, yeah.
Isn't that,
Prairie Care, yeah.
isn't that an adult day treatment?
I think it's for all, isn't it?
No, the primary focus will be on children.
Right.
And they're actually up and running right now. I believe that they're in the building where the parish line or
Union
Master
Square?
Reed and Reese used to run.
Union
the
Square.
old Union School.
Union Square building, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's 4-story building, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're gonna take up a good portion of it, I know that, so.
Yeah, the library will be in the shadows.
Exactly, yeah. One more I just had too, it's just similar maybe, but Lutheran Social Services has a payment to recipients in week 2. And it says daycare, or no, it doesn't say daycare. I put that down as a question mark, wondering if it's helping with that. $10,954. I was just curious, wondering which services it's going for. Maybe it's quite a few services, I don't know.
Those are actually guardianship fees.
Oh, sure. That's one of their services.
That they're providing.
Yep, they're one of the local guardianship providers. That's it for my questions on the bills. Anybody else have one? Okay.
I'm good.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Human Resources.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 8 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. We just have informational items for you today. We're starting to see some of our early retirement program showing up on this report. We have 3 individuals that have filled out the paperwork and will be taking advantage of that program, and so we've initiated recruitment to refill a 911 dispatcher, a probation officer, and a waste management specialist.
And all 3 of them will be missed. You know that?
Yep, well, yeah.
That is one of the downsides of the program, is we are losing that institutional knowledge that goes with a lot of these individuals. But we have positive gains that also will be seen with that program.
I'd like to say Thomas Benson, Toby Baker, and Gene Lundquist. Yeah.
Then moving on, we have the employment of 2 individuals as assistant county attorneys in the county attorney's office, and so filling some of the vacancies there. And then we had filled 2 library clerk positions, one an on-call position and one a part-time library clerk.
Very good. Joint powers.
Move on to item number 9 in your packet is a couple of joint powers agreements for the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff has requested board approval of these items. One is a joint powers agreement between the state of Minnesota and the River Valley Drug Task Force, and the other is between the state of Minnesota and our Sheriff's Office. The joint powers agreements support the Minnesota Anti-Heroin Task Force program and will provide reimbursement to the county for overtime associated with investigations that are related to the distribution of heroin or prescription opioids and other related activities. And so recommending approval of the county board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Here we have a motion for approval of the first contract agreement, which is going to be between the state of Minnesota and the Minnesota River Valley Drug Task Force. And a second. I looked at both of these agreements and I was trying to see if there's any differences, and the only differences are that basically what it says, that one is between the River Valley Drug Task Force and the Sheriff's Office. So, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
You want to do for the second one then?
Yeah, the second one we've got here is the joint powers agreement between the state of Minnesota with the Blue Earth County on behalf of its sheriff's office.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We've got a motion for approval and a second. Any comments or discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 10 in your packet is the financial status report for March 31st. This is the end of our first fiscal quarter. You'll see that our expenses are considerably higher than our revenue at this point in the year, which is typical as we wait for our first half taxes to arrive. We also are seeing a little lag in our state and federal revenues in comparison to last year, and so that's running a little bit behind our projections at this point, but hopefully that will catch up here in April. On the expenditure side, our total expenditures are at just under 17% compared to a budget of 25%, so our expenses are running a little bit below budget as well. A lot of that relates again to the large construction projects that will pick up over the summer time frame. In terms of the enterprise fund, our Ponderosa, you'll see there that our revenues are exceeding our expenses. We don't have as much activity going on in terms of land improvements and cell development, and so we're back to maybe a little bit more of a normal budgeting environment there where our revenues are exceeding our expenses. Second page shows our available cash. Our total cash sits at 102 million, up a little bit from the prior year, but again, a lot of that is committed funds to various purposes. Be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Mr. Chair and
yes,
Rob, is the property tax collection, so that takes into account already the early money from December, whatever, how does that, for people paying?
We actually hold that in an agency fund until the distribution occurs. So while it's in our funds on that second page, we don't record it in our operating budget until the distribution occurs in May.
Thank you. Since that was
interesting.
A couple million, was it, or something?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe it was.
Yeah. Thank you.
The only question I have then too was related to turnback dollars. The number one, we really aren't getting those dollars. They're actually, the state's actually helping pay for that. Isn't that correct? Or do they?
Yes, so the state is reimbursing us for costs with that project, and so in prior years, as we've done some work on that particular road, we've gotten reimbursement, and that will continue as we finish out that project.
Okay. Anybody else?
Looks good.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
All right, and then we have a memo that was distributed to the board earlier today requesting appointment of Commissioner Purvis to the Huntley to Wilmarth Transmission Line Advisory Task Force. This is a task force working with the Public Utilities Commission to provide some advice and feedback to the proposed routes for the Huntley to Wilmarth transmission line. As I understand it, Commissioner Purvis has already attended one meeting as they've gotten it rolling, but wanted to authorize his appointment to that committee.
So moved.
Second.
We've got resolution then to approve Will Purvis first and a second, and to this Huntley Wilmarth Transmission Line Advisory Task Force. Thank you for doing that, Will.
Yeah, it isn't like you don't have enough on your table.
Yeah, interesting stuff though, very interesting.
Well, and as we all know, it's coming through our county.
Yep.
Right down the...
Yep. I think at least
No
three
matter
of the...
which way it goes, it comes through our county.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think at least 3 of the 4 proposed routes are in my district, so...
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Anybody else? Anything to say? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And then next we've got our commissioners' reports. Is that about it, Bob?
It is.
Okay, so who would like to start today? Mark?
Well, you want me to start?
Sure.
I'm not
Mr.
used
People?
to that. Let's see, April 6th, I think, after our board meeting, it was a Friday, we had a multi-county solid waste, and it was actually, it's held every several months, and this time around, Blue Earth County hosted it. We were over at the government center, so then I had to chair it, and that's just kind of goes around with best practices of each county and what they're doing with solid waste and recycling and all that. So it was it's always informative. And then April 7th, some of us were at the Benco. That was that Saturday at their annual meeting. Kip and Will was there. And that was there was a lot of people there. 1,900 people, they said.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Then on let's see, Tuesday, the following Tuesday was the 10th, I think it was, yeah. That was my first meeting for the board. You just selected for me to be on. The Homeless Leadership Circle met for the first time, introductions. And there's the Assistant Human Services Director, a guy from Hennepin County. He was interesting. There are people from, there was one from Faith-Based. That's where we had it, at the Plymouth Congregational Church, that really old, neat church off of Nicollet there in Minneapolis. I had never really been in that area, but that's pretty cool in itself. But there was probably about 20 plus people on this, and it was a big circle. When they said circle, and the interesting thing was, prior to that, actually, because they have different people from every part of the state dealing with homeless, either shelters, or it might be someone in their human services, or different kind of walks of life, and they try to get people. Then they wanted several that were actually recipients, or people that were homeless, either present or had been, give another perspective on it. And so there was actually Blue Earth County administrator, the person that was kind of the secretary for this whole thing, was talking to Jen, our director, and she was put on this thing because they needed somebody from the southwest area, which was here in Rochester, so she's on it as a shelter director. And then she had a person, Jeremy, that was actually one of our people in our shelter, in a kind of a double thing where he was a veteran, and his teenage daughter and him were in. Very articulate guy. So anyway, it was interesting. So this first meeting, of course, introductions, and then it got into the homeless and the variety around the state, and then where we all had to come up with kind of a idea where we were going to go from a benchmark from that meeting, what we were looking to accomplish. And so it was really productive for the first one, and it had, like I said, POLAD Foundation's part of it. And like I say, the state of Minnesota is big. It's a 10-year plan, or they're looking at reducing homelessness, the time involved in homelessness, and it's a whole goal-making process. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting.
Very good.
Oh, geez, I almost thought that was it. Then we had Kip and I had Micah the next day up in the cities, and that of course was full of a lot of different issues from the legislative activity. And Keith Carlson, always gives a good report. He's going to be missed when he's because he's going to be retiring pretty soon.
This year, isn't he?
Yeah, he's I don't know. The only other guy I think knows more is Bob, but.
He knows a lot more than I do.
He's got a fantastic memory. Anyway, that basically does conclude my report.
Did you make the All Seasons Arena?
What's that?
Did you make the All Seasons Arena?
I didn't make that. Yeah, I somehow missed out. How did I miss that? Yeah.
I don't know how you put it in your calendar the same day.
Did I put it in there? Okay. What same day?
I beg to go. You guys don't want to go?
I don't think I must not have put it in though.
I was able to make it, and so I did bring back the agenda and some of the material for you.
Good. Yeah. That was it, Mark. You had Bob going still.
Yeah.
Good move.
That's what I did. I forgot.
Oh.
I'm ready.
Mr. Purvis,
Kip to my next one. How's that?
Drew wants to go. He can go.
All right.
Okay. So on the 4th, I had a JD1 meeting down in Mapleton. And good discussion over that. It's a relatively small system with Lura Lake is I think about a third of that watershed. So it's interesting. They're talking about maybe abandoning the outlet in the spot where the tile is, and the DNR has another outlet farther down in the lake, so that would probably serve this system. So it's kind of interesting. It could save the drainage system a little money if they do that. So they're kind of working on that. And then on the 5th, they had the SWCD meeting, and interesting meeting there. I had to leave a little early though to attend the Roots, Shoots, and Boots meeting that Kip and I went to down at Friesen's.
You just like to say that.
Yeah. Sometimes I say it backwards just for the fun of it, but very, very interesting. A lot of folks there talked about feeding people in the area that don't have access to the fresh fruits and vegetables and stuff that the rest of us take for granted. So it's very, very interesting to hear that. On the 6th, I attended the Minnesota Pheasants Inc. banquet at the ballroom. Nice to see about 500 people there and supporting wildlife habitat and that type of stuff. Then Mark already mentioned the Benko meeting on the 7th. I go to that as a member as well as a elected official, and they definitely had a good turnout there. On the 12th, we had the Huntley-Wilmarth Task Force meeting. Very interesting stuff. That was the first of 3 meetings that we're going to have. Next one will be this coming Friday. So a lot of good information passed on there. There are also some public meetings scheduled in the area too, so if you get the opportunity to go to one of them, it's good. They're really looking for public input on it. On the 13th, they attended the Ducks Unlimited banquet in Lake Crystal. Again, a good sportsman's event. They spend a lot of time and effort to improve wildlife habitat in the area. And then yesterday, Vance and I were here with the community farm meetings, and that's my report.
Well, very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Brunder?
All right, after our last meeting, we had the department head meeting. It's always good to get together with all those folks and hear what's going on with all of our department heads. So that's one meeting I do enjoy going to and keeping kind of what's going on with all of the department heads. I like that part of it when Bob goes around the room and asks everybody what their department's got going on. So, plus the other agenda items are always helpful. Planning and zoning, which is moot point because we had that meeting this morning, but everything did go relatively well at the meeting. I don't think anybody testified. Then I was up at the MVAC. Senator Smith was in. Bob was there, and she was visiting about child care, and had a good group of people, probably 18, 20 people at the table.
Wow.
All the way from people that are having issues with daycare to the learning center issues. Bob was there administratively with county issues. And Senator Smith, it was probably 45 minutes to an hour she visited with us, so just trying to get some input. Again, it's a huge issue. We don't know how to resolve it. She was kind of, well, at the end she was jokingly said, well, I thought we were going to fix all the problems when I came here today, but it's a lot bigger issue than that. But a lot of good discussion, and MVAC did a nice job hosting that. And then from that, I went down to the Roots, Shoots, and Boots where Will was, and Senator Smith followed me down there. She spoke for a few minutes down there also, but it was nice to get down there and hear from Anna Good with the community farm. And after I got done visiting with her and hearing her presentation, I haven't been a big supporter of the community farm because I think it's kind of lost its interest. But after hearing Anna, and I can understand why you guys are committed and want to give her one more chance, and so it was exciting to hear that, and got to sit at our table with some other people that are in the farming and talking about how we can get them goods into the market or into the schools. And so it was just an interesting conversation because I'm just not involved in a lot of that. So it was fun to sit there and listen to some of the thoughts and ideas that we had. A lot of discussion about moving the farmers market downtown. They're trying to find, not move it totally from what I understand, but they want to put another one down here during the week. So just trying to get down to this area. So they're trying to find a place to do that, and it seemed like a lot of that discussion gravitated around that. So a lot of interesting talk about that. So more to come. So, but not to take it from uptown, but just to expand it.
That would be the Saturday one up there, but then they want to have one in the middle of the week.
Something like that. Yeah. So it sounded interesting.
It's all back at Best Buy though.
Yeah, I think they've decided to
Best
stay
Buy
up
for
on
this
the
year.
hill.
Keep
For now,
Okay. It was hard to find a place to really work.
Then I was also at the Benco meeting. Again, 1,900 people, and they fed them all in about 20 minutes. Which
How do you do
amazing. They do a great job down
Do you
there.
remember what you had? Or?
Yes.
Chicken.
Chicken, green beans, I don't know.
Yeah. But they had a good meeting. Dave gives a nice report of what's going on with Benco, and certainly gives a lot of credit to his staff and the people that are on the ground doing the work for him. So it's always good to hear from upper management. Then, Mark, I don't know if you mentioned this, Mark, but Mark and I were both up at the safety meeting for a few minutes, talking with Ryan.
I was up there too.
We were there early because we had to go to Micah, so we were up there about their break and got to talk to a few of the guys and say hi to them. And then on our way to Micah, we were on a conference call with RCEF, and they're kind of just doing business as usual, getting through some stuff, but they wanted us on the phone to discuss some certain items, but we never got to them at the end of the conference call. So and then we had Micah. Again, everything's going really well there. Mayors and clerks heard from somebody from the Red Cross, which was
that was good.
She did a good job talking about that, and Drew asked some good questions and some good follow-up. And the mayor over there always does a nice job, and it's nice to see that they always get a few council members that come. It's just so good that they're that involved. And then Mark and I were out on some site visits to some projects we got going on. And then yesterday I had my Minnesota Valley Action Council personnel meeting, and things are going well there. We bought a new truck for the heating program and a couple other items that we just deal with. And then we have our full board meeting coming up next month. And in the middle of the summer in July, we have our Robert J. Wolf Award. So if anybody knows anybody that want me to bring their name forward next month for someone that volunteers in the community, I'd be certainly happy to do that. That brings me up to date, Mr. Chair.
Wow, thank you very much.
Too many acronyms, isn't there?
That's what it all is.
Commissioner Strumberg.
All right. Well, last board meeting was April 3rd. On the 4th, again, I went to the department head meeting. April 5th through the 7th, I went down to Palm Beach, Florida for the Rural Action Caucus Symposium. And was rather concerned going to Palm Beach, Florida for a Rural Action Caucus.
I know.
Because the city of Palm Beach itself is one of the richest cities in the United States. But it's like you turn a switch. You go out to the western portions of Palm Beach County, you have a very rural, agriculture poor area. You get some of these small towns like we have, about the size of Amboy, Vernon Center, and you have 30% unemployment rate. You have an average, people are making 10, 12 bucks an hour at their jobs. And they're working at these agriculture places because they have one of the largest lettuce packaging plants in the United States. They have a huge sugar cane factory which supplies the sugar for like a Domino is, they have sugar. We were able to go through a lot of these, and then we had a thing on the Farm Bill Summit, and you're hearing rural commissioners from across the United States very, very concerned on what's happening with the Farm Bill and what's happening with the federal government and how they're handling what the farming community, and very, people are worried about their livelihoods. I mean, what's going on, and the whole issues with China, and everything was brought up, and you have a lot of people scared right now. So I came back from there. Came back from the 85-degree weather to Minnesota, thinking I was going to bring the warm weather back with me, and I guess I didn't. April 10th, I had a Children's Museum board meeting. Let's see, we had April 11th, we had a Highway 169 corridor coalition legislative event up at the state capitol. It was right in the Capitol building. We had, we probably had about a dozen different legislators, senators coming and checked out the 169 corridor and trying to let them know how important that corridor is to not only our area but to the state of Minnesota. On April 12th, I went to they had a grand opening in the Children's Museum for what they call the automation station at the Children's Museum, and you had, and it's really amazing. They put in robotics and stuff into one area where they had South Central College students working on this. They got help from Datsun, and so they're showing students how the metal is poured and stuff. Of course, they're using lights instead of metal, and they had Jones Metal products were there, so a lot of robotics and stuff, and of course the kids are just swarming to it, and just to give those kids the interest of what's coming up in the future and what they could be doing. Pretty awesome. Of course, April 14th, we all had what I called the April Stormzilla. So I was up there and I got my snow blower and able to help the neighborhood out with my snow blower. But and then yesterday we had our community farm meeting, me and Will and Anna Good, and yeah, it's really hard not to get excited about the community farm after talking to Anna Good. She has got one amazing personality, and she's going to take this to a lot higher things than what we expected, even when we started 6 years ago. So
she's real strong on the educational component, and that's something
yeah.
Something that we could never quite get going, so I
Yep,
think she'll be.
and she's working with the Lincoln Community Center with their summer projects, and she's going to have students come out and learn how to plant seeds and how to, you know, and then she's going to have a mother's, she called that a mom's garden, to teach moms how to plant seeds and stuff, and she wants to have like 12 different raised gardens, so she can teach other people how they can do this in their own backyard.
That's good.
You know, and it's just amazing listening to her, and you know, whatever we're paying her, I don't think is going to be nearly as much as work as she's going to put in. And so that's the end of mine. Thank you.
Oh, very good, thank you, Commissioner. And I'll try to keep mine short.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah. Well, we had
Yeah, like we need to tell them that.
Okay. No. Before I start, I wanted to mention that I think this month is National County Month, isn't it, Vance?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Bob?
it is. Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
So, a lot of counties highlight things, you know, what's going on. And here in Minnesota, it's also considered National STD Awareness Month for Minnesota. You know what that stands for, Mark?
Yep.
Or, well, you know what that
And your reason for bringing it up?
Well, I just wanted to highlight the fact that Minnesota Department of Health encourages all Minnesotans to learn about sexually transmitted diseases, thus STD. One of our state's most persistent health problems. Both chlamydia and gonorrhea are very much a problem in our state. And from 2006 to 2016, there's been a 71% increase in chlamydia infections. And you wouldn't think that with, you know, you think, what's going on with the education? You know? The group that's getting pretty, having a lot of contact with syphilis actually it's rising in women too. So it's really quite interesting. The age group for syphilis tends to be 20 to 40-year-olds, and a little higher in, it's quite a bit higher in our non-white population. So I just wanted to give you a few little tidbits about that and highlight it and encourage people to get tested. That's what this month is about, is to try and encourage people to not be afraid to go in and get tested, because that's how we stop this from being spread. The other thing, now I'll start then, our last meeting was April 3rd, of course. We had no luncheon meeting afterwards. April 4th, department head meeting was already highlighted. I enjoy the same reasons for attending and hearing if there's anything going on in our departments, hearing from Bob, updates. And then that same day, there was an interview that was set up way in advance of me on the phone from the Minnesota Department of Health, and it's some follow-up information that was attached to our work group called Strengthening Public Health in Minnesota. And so looking at, you know, how do we as public officials talk about public health? How do we have a way we talk about it? Do we need help in talking about the public health concerns that we have and how we address them? The woman that interviewed me was Ann March, and she mostly works from home, I believe, from up north. It was a very good interview. It was at least an hour long on the phone. Same day, I attended the Region 9 Rural Connect Summit, and that was an all-day summit. It was held up in North Mankato at the South Central Cooperative Building, and what a summit. There was representatives of many providers in our area. There were people who have worked in fiber and trying to expand broadband, people who, representatives from the area, the officials. In fact, we were visited by our new Senator Tina Smith, who I guess she's had this as a real passion to try to get rural broadband out there for our rural areas, which are lacking. People ask why, what's the big deal? Well, take it for granted when you live in a bigger city where you have access to high-speed internet. You go out to these rural areas and the kids, it slows down education. They have to go to places just to even get, you know, connections. Dial-up takes forever, so people don't even want to deal with it. And so it's really it affects the economic development, education, and even public health. of our rural communities. And so it was a really good all-day thing that Region 9 helped to put together. Kudos to Region 9. And I think that when you look at the maps of where broadband has been expanded and the residents have access to it, Blue Earth County does not have very much.
The whole west side is underserved.
Oh man, there's a lot of empty space. So hopefully, as a board, we have a lot. We actually can stimulate some planning in this area and get it going. I hope we can continue to talk. I know they came, Bob. When was that? Region 9 came last fall.
I think it was last spring, actually.
Last spring.
Mhm.
Time goes fast.
Yeah.
And they can help us, or we can hire a consultant to help us if we want to kind of start springboarding this. I want to mention that Tina Smith also just what do you call it? She authored a bill to expand grant opportunities to rural communities.
Yep.
Did you see that?
I saw that, yeah.
Did you see that? Yeah. So
Good. That's
I thought
good.
that was pretty good. And then I want to mention on the 11th, it was a Wednesday. The reason I'm mentioning this is it's not something I'm assigned to through the board, but I've been volunteering off and on with Lutheran Social Services, and I was invited to their it's a luncheon of philanthropy or something, and so they had a lot of older people there who helped support Lutheran Social Services, and it was at the American Swedish Institute. Has anybody here ever been there?
Oh, the city of Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it because it tells you a little bit about me too, but as a little boy when I was raised, my mother, who came here as an immigrant from Sweden, and eventually we ended up in Minneapolis, and I remember her bringing me there to many events, many celebrations, and Santa Lucia celebrations around the holidays, with Christmas, sitting there as a little boy and watching her come down this huge mansion. If you ever get a chance, go up there. It was built, it's called the Turnblad Mansion. It has 63 rooms, and it's right on Park Avenue. But just a lot of memories, to see that place again and go through there and remember many years. My grandfather has wood carvings in their archives there too. He was a wood carver, Oscar Sjogren. But LSS has a history in Minnesota. Lutheran Social Services started in Minnesota over 150 years ago, and they fill a lot of gaps, similar to what counties do. They're another nonprofit like Vine, who provide a lot of social services, public health services. As we saw in our packet today, I guess they do these guardianships. They do Meals on Wheels. They help with adoptions. They got their fingers in a lot of things. And of course, they're not all over the state as much because they just can't afford to have offices everywhere. So I'm just saying that because they are an arm and they are a partner with counties, with what we're doing. And so I just want to mention that. I've been volunteering with them for several years, and now they've got me helping doing some outreach in our southern Minnesota with the churches. I think it was called the Norelius family, and I think it started like over by Red Wing in a little teeny church, Lutheran church, and there were some boys and they were orphaned, and that's where it started, out of that kind of a environment. So it's very interesting. On that same day, I made it back in time to go to the MnDOT area transportation, ATP planning, and so they had an open house up at the South Central Cooperative Building there in North Mankato, and they did a good job. They had some staff there and some maps, and I want to tell you, I got some with me. I'll just set them maybe in the round table, so you could look at some of the information. I'm sorry I didn't bring it. And then after that, we had our full Region 9 Commission meeting. We did that strategically to try to see if we could get more people to go to a lot of the area people who are on the full Commission meeting with Region 9. So we had a good meeting that evening. We have education folks on that as a full Commission. We have city mayors, township officers, a lot of county commissioners, all get together to hear about what's going on in our region, and of course talked about broadband there too. And one of the other things we talked about is these automated cars with nobody driving them, and they had some professionals there from the Twin Cities presenting about the amount of money that is being spent right now is unbelievable in technology looking at driverless vehicles. And I think Vance, you've heard some reports because you're quite a bit into transportation, so you know that this is something they're seriously looking at. It's not going to happen tomorrow, and especially because the sensors that they have on there's various kinds of sensors. They've got the satellite sensors, but they've also got sensors built into the vehicles that sense the painted lines, the traffic movements around you. And whenever it gets into these vehicles now get into a snow-like situation, they don't know. They get pretty confused and don't know what to do. So they're not coming to Minnesota anytime soon.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, they'll probably figure it out. So
So when you guys meet, are you in the your new Grafe, or the Grafe building, or you have to meet over in?
No, we go to the South Central Cooperative Building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Grafe building doesn't have any
Not enough
facility.
room.
No, yeah, it doesn't have any. So, yeah, it's a new experience. We have two new planners too. And interesting, one of them has a very strong Latino background, I think from Columbia, and many years of experience in planning. And then another one from Norway, and originally, but he's worked very hard in different capacities, and also has been teaching at Gustavus in economics and planning. So both of those new planners will be with Region 9, and I invite you to introduce yourself to them if you see them at one of the meetings or somewhere in our community. And then on Thursday the 12th, of course, we have mayors and clerks, and I just want to send out a thank you, especially to Leah Pongrant. Is that how you say her name?
Yep.
She came to speak about the Red Cross, and I believe she's our regional director or for the office here in Mankato. And boy, didn't she do a good job?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was pretty polished, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about all the services that Red Cross does. Again, another nonprofit in our midst doesn't take hardly. I don't think it takes any government dollars.
They don't get any.
Yeah, and so we as government have to realize that these nonprofits are a very important partner in our communities. And then, of course, Saturday and Sunday I had a meeting with the blizzard snow that we had. That was something else. A lot of shoveling going on. And on Monday, I had a meeting. This is a community meeting. It's the Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association. That was last night. And just another further statement about what we were doing. At least 30 to 40 people came and looked over there was 3 vendors presenting, showing what kind of playground equipment possibilities we have for our new park we're going to try to develop with the help of the city down on Stoltzman and East Pleasant, right down there, kitty corner from the high school. And it'll be wonderful for our community and for our neighborhood and in my district to have this, because that's a huge neighborhood, and I'd like to know what the population is. I should find out. But
What did you say the other night? 750?
750 or 780 addresses.
Wow, yeah, that's incredible.
I mean, that's, and that's, then there's these apartments that we don't even hardly get to half the time. There's apartments there too. So I'd like to thank the city of Mankato, their planning department, Mark Kahns and Molly Westman, and of course Ashley. She's our new park superintendent, who used to be our forester for the city of Mankato, and so she's overseeing that and also helping with all of our park issues. And today we have our employee recognition event this afternoon at 1 o'clock that we're all going to be at. So I just wanted to get that out there. I also wanted to just mention this, that I did get a letter, and I haven't followed up on it yet, and I'm sorry, but somebody sent me a letter about a desire to want to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. But I didn't feel like I could respond as a chair without having some input from the board, and I thought over the next weeks or whenever, I don't think we should put a rush on it, but I think they're bringing it before the city of Mankato as a proposal to either add or change the day locally to Indigenous Peoples Day. There's an effort going on like that all across the country for years, and I think I'd like to know more information about it and the history and do more research before just making a decision like that. we all need to be part of that, I think. So, just a comment. Maybe later on we could look at information, Bob, at a work session, or, you know, whatever we need to do. Other than that, I guess we could entertain a motion to recess.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion from Mark People and a second from Van Struenberg for a recess to the bonfire for our county luncheon, and the public is invited.
Okay, so 1 o'clock up at the...
Yeah, the event, yeah, we've got, it's only
1:30.
11:10 now almost, so